Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. Today on the Daily Review, we discuss another movie from the 90s on this 90s kick 'em on called Awakenings, directed by Penny Marshall, starring Robin Williams, Robert De Niro, and several other people. Today, with your host, me, Joe LaRocca, the best damn show on the internet. Less than 1,000 subs. That's the caveat. The best show with less than 1,000 subs. Okay, there's a lot of other people in there. Max von Sydow's got a scene. John Hurd. Julie Kavner is awesome in it. Ruth Nelson, who plays Mrs. Lowe, has got several amazing scenes. Penny Marshall, a female director. We know her from Big and League of Their Own, which she did all three of these in a row. That's a pretty strong 3 in a row pop movies. Like, potentially unrivaled. Although it has been rivaled by people like Scorsese and De Niro. But still, pretty impressive. Big, League of Their Own, this, all did well, all resonated with audience, all have tremendous performances, and are both kind of heartbreaking and funny. You know, she does it both. Now this, halfway through this, I wrote down, what a wonderful, uplifting film. That's probably a bit oversimplified, but that's okay. And then when I got to the third act in the end, I was like, wow, what a bummer this movie actually is. What it's about is Robert De Niro's character, along with essentially this whole ward of people who are just kind of forgotten about in the back corners of this hospital, who all had encephalitis in the 20s, which is like a brain infection that caused them to essentially have locked-in syndrome, like paralysis in the face and inability to move and communicate, but they're in there, you know, which is maybe the most nightmarish thing if you've ever seen The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. This is kind of like The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, but from the doctor's perspectives, you know. And Robin Williams, who's a brain scientist, like a neurologist, but doesn't usually work with patients, isn't a people person, gets flung into this situation where he has to take the job, and it's basically these two characters, that's what we focus on mainly, are in like a nightmare situation. For each of them, it's really, you know, one can't communicate, the other one doesn't really know how to communicate with these people, and is not a great people person, so it's like the situation that would make him the most uncomfortable. But through their bonding and their interactions and what they teach each other, a flame grows between them, and that, you know, the movie is about how compassion and friendship are the only way to light your way through the darkness of life. And there's a lot of great doctor getting to know patient scenes that are really funny. Lucy Fish, she's the old woman in the beginning of Ghostbusters, who goes, shh. The monster goes shh, but she gets scared by the monster. He goes, are you by any chance menstruating? I don't see what that has to do with it. It's okay, I'm a scientist. Then there's this lady who's like, I'm Juanita, hi. And then he takes out a pen, and she goes, ah, and starts screaming and flipping out. There's a scene where a guy's just kind of staring at the TV, and the vertical hold is off, so it's going whoosh, whoosh. And so Robin Williams corrects it, and then the guy's eyes just kind of wander away from the TV. So Robin's like, turns the vertical hold back on, and the guy, his attention goes back to it. So there's a lot of little subtle good scenes, or how music is good for communicating with these people, and some songs like motivate them to eat. And there's this one orderly who's like playing them all different types of music, and finally gets to Jimi Hendrix, and one guy's like eating like crazy. I was like, oh, all this is wonderful, albeit probably a little saccharine, a little overdone. That's the big question that he asked. What's it like to be them? What are they thinking? And Max von Sydow was like, they aren't thinking. He's like, how do you know they're not thinking? He's like, because that's too horrible to imagine. Like, God help us if that's what's happening. And he realizes, no, that is what's happening. So he does some research, gets some Parkinson's drug treatment, and tries this new drug treatment on them, and it remarkably helps De Niro amazingly, and he comes out of his shell, and it's like Rip Van Winkle or something. He's been asleep for 30 years, and it's beautiful and amazing for the whole second act, watching him develop and kind of come out of his shell. And then the halfway point, it's like, well, we got to get everybody on the floor on this. You know, it's the midpoint conflict. And so they raise all this money, and he ends up being an ambassador. And he hears the zombie song Season of Love and the moon landing and all that stuff. He learns all that in one day. It's great. But it does feel like his adjustment is pretty quick. He goes from being like unable to talk to like a pretty average, functioning human. And I don't think that I said that wrong, but you know what I mean. I think it probably was much more difficult than how they show it, but that's not really enjoyable. And then the third act, without spoiling anything, it just gets really depressing again. I know that there's some uplifting stuff in there, but it's really sad to watch it kind of peak near the end and then kind of come down the other side, and the effect that it has. And that's where the movie is not shying away from the fact, I guess this could have ended with like the cheesiest, happiest ending, like, and everybody's fine and everybody gets married. And that, obviously that doesn't happen, but the realities of what does happen, I realize I've contradicted myself a little bit by saying that it's unrealistic, but then talking about how realistic I feel the ending is. But I don't feel like the ending is realistic. I think it's just not in, I don't know. I guess it is. It's based on true story, but I don't know. The way they depict it feels oversimplified. That's what I'll say. I thought the first half was tremendous, and then not because I didn't want to see it go bad, but because I felt like once De Niro is fine, the movie kind of loses focus a little bit. And then the corny thing is that, that De Niro can realize, even though he has like the mind of an 8-year-old, it seems like he gets so advanced so quickly, and he to Robin Williams is like, you're the one who's asleep, and the movie ends up kind of ultimately becoming about Robin Williams, his own awakenings, So it's certainly good, and it's like this 90s movie, and Gotham and I were talking about it because he teaches, he shows League of Their Own, I believe, when they do Penny Marshall. They do like a little bit of that in one of his classes, I believe, and he was like, yeah, no, it's good, but it really kind of pulls at your heartstrings, and is a little bit cheese on the taco, as they say. But I liked it. I did like it. We agreed that like it feels like everybody in the 90s all went to the same screenwriting seminar, or like starting in like 88 with Rain Man or whatever it was, like around that time. Every screenplay kind of has the same thing all the way through to like the mid to late 90s of like, na 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 na, everything's fucked, na 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 na, and then like you can kind of pick it all out, and you know what, that seminar that they all went to was really good, but now it's kind of tired, So 90s movies have an interesting kind of warmth to them for me, so I've been into them for a little while, but I'm sure we'll go back to hitting some modern movies. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about this movie. Some really amazing scenes, and the performances are unbelievable. Like De Niro you forget he's De Niro when he's like catatonic. It's pretty remarkable. He deserves all that praise that dude gets. He is one of the best. All right. See you tomorrow. First day of class. Bring your pencil case.